3 seconds. That is the entire difference between a room full of arrogant laughter and a room full of terrified silence. 3 seconds is all it takes to rewrite the laws of physics for every black belt in the building. Right now, a man is smiling. He is pointing at an outstretched hand, mocking it, calling it a cheap parlor trick for tourists. He sees a young man in a yellow shirt and sees a victim. But what happens next won't just wipe that smile off his face. It will send a shockwave through the martial arts world that is still vibrating 60 years later. Long Beach, California, August 2nd, 1964. The air inside the municipal auditorium is thick, almost drinkable. It is a heavy cocktail of humidity, stale cigarette smoke, and the sharp, stinging scent of menthol rub. It is the kind of heat that sticks your shirt to your back and makes the rubber floor mats slick with condensation. The noise is a constant, low-frequency rumble of chatter, the slapping of bare feet on canvas, and the occasional shout of exertion. This is the International Karate Championships, a place where tradition is king and hierarchy is everything. In the center of the mat stands a young man named Bruce. He doesn't look like a lethal weapon. He looks like a college student who got lost on his way to the library. He is wearing a yellow button-down shirt, looking incredibly unassuming, almost fragile compared to the giants surrounding him. Standing opposite him is a seasoned karate practitioner. This is a man whose knuckles are calloused from years of striking wood and stone. He carries a skepticism that sucks the oxygen out of the room. He looks at Bruce, then he looks at the crowd, and he shakes his head. He represents the old guard, the believers in hard styles, rigid forms, and visible power. The challenge is simple, or at least, it sounds simple. Bruce extends his right arm. He places his fingers lightly against the man's chest, then pulls them back, leaving exactly 1 inch of space. 0 wind-up room. The veteran fighter actually chuckles. He knows the rules of combat. He knows the laws of physics. You cannot generate force without distance. Mass times acceleration requires space. Without the pullback, without the wind-up, a punch is just a push. It is biologically impossible to hurt someone from this range, or so he thinks. The crowd, a mix of curious onlookers and traditional masters in stiff white uniforms, leans in. They are expecting a joke. They are waiting for the punchline where the kid embarrasses himself. The whispers start circulating through the bleachers like a contagion. He's going to break his wrist against that wall of muscle. Who does this kid think he is? It feels like a setup for a public humiliation. The challenger plants his feet wide. He braces his chest, locking his core, confident that basic biomechanics are on his side. He is effectively a statue, grounded and immovable. He nods at Bruce. "Go ahead," his posture says. "Give me your best shot." He is mocking that single inch of empty space. He sees it as nothing, a void where no power can exist. But here is the detail everyone in that sweaty auditorium misses. While the challenger is getting harder, tenser, bracing for impact, Bruce is doing the exact opposite. He isn't tensing up, he is relaxing. Watch his knees. They dip, just slightly. A fraction of an inch. Watch his shoulders. They drop, removing all tension from the trapezius muscles. The breath leaves his body in a slow, controlled exhale. To the untrained eye, he looks like he's giving up before he even starts. He looks soft, but to the few grandmasters in the front row, this is the moment the alarm bells should be ringing. They aren't looking at a fighter preparing to strike. They are looking at a human being turning themselves into a whip. The conventional wisdom of 1964 says you need to draw back the fist to the hip, twist the waist, and drive forward to hurt someone. Bruce is standing flat-footed. His hand is already at the target. It defies logic, it defies tradition. It is, by all accounts, ridiculous. And that is exactly why the man in front of him is still smiling. He believes he is safe. He believes in the limitation of distance. He is mistaking stillness for weakness. Behind the challenger, someone has placed a folding chair. It's about 5 feet back, a safety precaution that seems entirely unnecessary given the circumstances. The crowd creates a semicircle of judgment. The skepticism is palpable, a heavy blanket weighing down on the young man in the yellow shirt. But Bruce isn't looking at the crowd. He isn't looking at the skeptical smile of his opponent. The noise in the room seems to dampen. The heckling fades into a low hum. Bruce's eyes lock onto a point, not on the man's chest, but through it. He isn't planning to hit the surface. He is aiming for the spine. The challenger takes one last breath, tightening his abdominal muscles into a shield of iron, preparing to absorb a tap, a shove, maybe a weak thud. He has no idea that he is standing in front of a loaded cannon that requires no fuse. There is a microscopic twitch in Bruce's hip. A connection forms between his heel, his waist, and his knuckles. It is an electrical circuit closing. The energy isn't coming from the arm, it's rising from the floor. The crowd blinks. The challenger blinks. And in that fraction of a second, the world is about to change. The distance is 1 inch. The consequence is going to be measured in feet. The smile is about to vanish. The hand travels less than the length of a matchstick. The movement is so subtle that if you blinked, you missed the cause, but you cannot miss the effect. The sound isn't the dull thud of fist hitting flesh. It's a crack. It sounds like a dry branch snapping under a heavy boot, a sharp, percussive report that cuts through the humidity of the auditorium. The challenger doesn't just stumble backward. He lifts off his feet. Both heels leave the canvas. It's as if an invisible cable has just yanked him violently from behind. The laws of physics, which he was so confident in just seconds ago, seem to have betrayed him. His body folds. He is propelled backward with such velocity that he crashes into the folding chair positioned 5 feet away. But the momentum doesn't stop there. The force transfers into the chair, and man and metal slide another few feet across the floor with a harsh, agonizing screech that echoes in the sudden silence. He lands hard. He is gasping for air that isn't there, his chest heaving, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and panic. The wind hasn't just been knocked out of him. It has been evicted. The smile is gone. The arrogance is gone. In its place is the raw, primal realization that he has just encountered something he does not understand. The room freezes. It is a moment of absolute suspended animation. No one speaks. No one moves. The laughter that filled the room 10 seconds ago has evaporated. The masters in the front row, the ones with the crossed arms and the critical eyes, are now leaning forward, their mouths slightly open. They just watched a man generate the force of a car crash from a distance of 1 inch. It effectively breaks their reality. They are trying to process the data, trying to figure out where the leverage came from without the wind-up. But here is the detail that defines the legend. This is the moment where Bruce Lee separates himself from being just a dangerous fighter and becomes a master. Most men, after being mocked and humiliated publicly, would stand over their fallen opponent. They would gloat. They would let the silence stretch out to maximize the dominance. They would shout, "I told you so." Bruce does none of that. The instant the man hits the floor, Bruce breaks his stance. The lethal focus in his eyes softens immediately. He steps forward, not to intimidate, but to help. He reaches out a hand to the man who just moments ago was calling him a fraud. He checks on him. He ensures he isn't permanently injured. There is no ego in his posture, only a quiet confidence. He turned a moment of potential violence into a physics lecture, and now he turns a moment of victory into a display of character. He didn't want to destroy the man's reputation. He wanted to break the limitation in his mind. Later, Bruce would explain the mechanics to the stunned crowd. He talked about kinetic linking. He explained that power doesn't come from the size of the arm, but from the coordination of the entire body moving as one unit. The feet push, the hips turn, the shoulder drives, and the wrist snaps, all in the same millisecond. It wasn't magic. It was absolute terrifying focus. He showed them that by removing the noise, the wind-up, the tension, the telegraphing, you increase the efficiency. That Sunday in Long Beach didn't just put Bruce Lee on the map. It changed the trajectory of martial arts in the West. It forced an entire generation of fighters to stop looking at the external show of force and start looking at the internal mechanics of power. The man who fell that day became part of history, not as a villain, but as the necessary skeptic who proved the impossible was real. So look at your own battles today. Where are you mistaking noise for power? In your career? In your relationships? In your creative work? Are you winding up? Are you making a lot of movement, creating a lot of drama and shouting to prove a point, hoping the distance will give you force? Or are you focused on the impact? True power is rarely loud. It doesn't need a running start. It doesn't need to announce itself with a scream. It is efficient. It is relaxed. It waits for the right moment and then delivers with absolute precision. And more importantly, ask yourself this. When you finally win, when you prove the doubters wrong and the chair slides back, who do you become in that silence? Do you stand over them to feed your ego? Do you use your victory to humiliate the people who didn't believe in you? Or do you step forward, offer a hand up, and turn your victory into a lesson? The punch made Bruce Lee famous, but the hand he offered afterward made him a legend. The question is, are you fighting to destroy, or are you fighting to teach? The choice, ultimately, is yours.